Okay, here we go. I think
it's on.
Good. That's
Hopefully no text messages.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, my phone's always going off and it interrupts. And I did check and it does stop. So you guys have no idea what we're talking about. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
This is Zach Valerio, Fairway Mortgage.
Vince Davis, Call Me Realty.
And
I'm a little stressed out today, but I'll be okay.
It's Monday morning. You're supposed to be.
I know. I'm always stressed.
You're a little bit hungover.
No, I didn't. I went to 2 spin classes and played golf yesterday.
You played golf and you're not hungover?
No, I don't drink on the golf course. I'm already bad enough. I don't need to drink on top of it.
All right, so today, interesting topic. These are problems that have popped up in our last couple of deals that we're doing together.
Mm-hmm.
We want to talk about how much money you really need to have on hand before you really start thinking you're ready to buy a house.
Yeah. So Vince and I were in a kind of not a unique situation because it comes up a lot, but the price point of probably between $3 and $335 is an interesting price range because you technically can still go FHA as long as your loan amount is $314. So you can go look at $330,000 houses or $335,000 houses. You just have to have the down payment,
which difference.
Yeah, which is going to be more than 3.5% down. But you can still use an FHA loan as long as you come in with that loan amount at $314. So we had someone looking at a house at $330. Their understanding was that they had to put 3.5% down.
And that was partially my fault because I was driving. And they just asked me what 3.5% was of $330, and I told them, and that's not what they needed. So another reason, loan questions. Go to the loan officer, not the real estate agent.
Yeah, always call me, and I'm available all the time.
I'm driving half the time, so I don't necessarily have all of my brain focused on what. So yeah. Yeah,
and it wouldn't. I mean, if someone asked me a question about inspection, I wouldn't know what the answer was to an inspection question. I'd be like, "You got to call Vince." I don't know. So we actually ended up going under contract because I was able to talk to him about, hey, yeah, in theory, 3.5% down qualifies you for an FHA loan, but we need you to put more money down than that to make sure that we get to the loan limit of $314. So we got seller concession, which was awesome, which will probably pay for most of their closing costs, if not all of them.
And I have a trick too, so I remove the up to line in the contract and the verbiage. So a lot of times, if you get too much in the way of concessions, the buyer loses it. They don't lose it with us. Yeah,
we want to make sure they get every advantage that we went out and got for them. So money up front, and I think we've talked about this a couple times, but it's just more of just a reminder. Like, you have to have money for your earnest payment, your appraisal, and your inspection.
That money comes out of your pocket before closing.
Yeah, and it's up front. I mean, this isn't, can I finance it into the loan? Can I give it to you in 3 weeks? Can seller concession cover it? These are costs, true costs.
Well, now the earnest money can be refunded. Let's say for the sake of argument, a deal falls apart for whatever reason, and it's not the buyer's fault. And there's a lot of different outs in a contract. The state of Arizona has it set up so that the buyer has all the advantages because the mentality is that the buyer doesn't know what they're buying. The seller knows what they're selling, but the buyer doesn't know what they're buying. So the earnest money can come back to you, but you still have to write that check. You have to have liquid cash money to open the escrow. And typically that's done the next day, the next business day, if you sign a contract on a Saturday or a holiday. So that money needs to be there.
Yeah. And Vince, what happens if I don't have the earnest money at that time, like the next day?
Usually the selling agent won't even consider the house sold. It'll stay active on the MLS. They'll keep getting in contracts. Technically I signed a contract, but I got cured on one. First time I've ever been cured for earnest money, but I got a cure notice saying that if the earnest money wasn't in by the end of the cure period, which is typically 3 days, calendar days, the deal's off. They can cancel it. And of course, there's no earnest money to refund under those circumstances, but but we got it. And they had to borrow money. They did it, but now Zach has a problem because now he needs to be able to source this money that came in and out of the bank account, which is not coming from a paycheck or an easily recognizable.
And it's, I mean, we can fix it and we can get around it, but it's one of those things where
we're good at fixing problems.
I think it's in one of these situations, just be honest and open with everybody every step of the way, because we figure it out. I mean, people touch these files a lot in my office. I mean, we have processors and underwriters for a reason to make sure if I don't catch it, someone does. Hey, Zach, the earnest money is going to be kind of a problem. I'm going to have to borrow it from my mom. She's going to write me a check. We're going to get in. Perfect. I need a gift letter and we need to source the funds. And then we take care of the problems up front. I like to do things preventative because I don't like hiccups and I don't like red flags, and no one else does either. So we'll figure it out. But it was news to me. Well, now the earnest money was gifted, and we didn't know that was going to happen.
He found out from me, not from the buyer.
Yeah, but Vince told me. And it's a unique situation. They're selling a house in California, and all the proceeds from the house are going to the house here. So we knew it was a little bit trickier. But, one phone call to me over the weekend, hey, the earnest money's going to come from my mom, would have, helped and really made it for a smoother transaction up front.
So also take into account an inspection. If you have a property with a pool, if you want your termites done, and again, depending on the square footage of the house, a home inspection can be anywhere from $350 to almost $550. Mm-hmm. That's cash money. They're a service company. They're outside of the scope of the typical transaction. They're not title. They're not lenders. They get paid on the spot. They're not commission only. You're paying them for a service, and most of them won't even give you your inspection report unless you pay them.
Right.
So you need to have that money available. The appraisal as well. Everybody prefers for the appraisal to get paid. I know that there have been instances, if you're watching this, and I know that some of you know that there are sometimes hoops and hurdles that can be overcome with that, but plan on it. Okay, be ready for it. Again, hoops and hurdles they seem to be our specialty, but we'd rather not.
Yeah, I mean,
we can just get these deals smooth.
It would be nice to not jump through some of those hoops sometimes, but I mean, we do it. And the
but
appraisal
it's not a
money,
promise, and we can't always do it either. So that's why it's important.
Yeah, and the appraisal money. I mean, if you're in a serious bind and you need to pay for the appraisal at the end, I can work around that and I can work with that. But just know if anything happens in the transaction, either you walk away from it
and you lose that money that you've already invested.
I have to charge you for it eventually. So if you don't have it up front, we can work around that. But at some point, that money is going to be collected.
And here's another point I'd like to make too. When you're thinking about these expenses, don't forget that you're going to incur costs moving. You might have to put utility deposits down. Mm-hmm. You might need to buy a box or two, rent a truck. I mean, don't scrape the bottom of the barrel. Okay. I mean, we're commission only. We want to see deals happen. We that's how we make a living. But at the same time, it's no good when somebody's suddenly house poor. And we talked about that last week.
Yeah,
and that's the last way you can get house poor. And then everybody's miserable, including us, because that's not what we want for you. We want you to be thrilled. We want you to be so happy.
We want it to be an awesome experience. And if you come into it and you're eating top ramen for 6 weeks because you don't have any money left, I mean, that's not what I want you to go through. Because when someone asks you, hey, isn't it amazing having a house? Aren't you so glad you bought a house?
Like, no.
And they go, well, the realtor was an idiot and the loan officer left me with $43 in my account. And it's like, we don't want that to happen. So just be prepared up front
and ask. Just talk to us. That's the way to avoid all this stuff, honestly. One thing that Zach's really good at is if I have a buyer who's interested in the house, I'll text him the address. He'll run the payments. He'll come up with estimated closing costs. And I can do estimated closing costs too, but they're always estimates, just estimates.
Yeah, I call it a ballpark, but it's pretty close. I mean, it's within $1,000.
I mean, we can contact the title companies we use and we know what their fee rates are, but at the same time, keep all the other stuff in mind too. Don't get overly optimistic. Yeah, we'd rather delay you by a pay period if that's what it takes.
Yeah, I mean, we always want to close on time, but if a situation comes up where you need an extra couple of days to put some money together, we can figure that out. Especially if we're at the end of the transaction and the sellers know we're going to close it, they should at least need a couple extra days. A couple extra days isn't going to really kill anybody. Maybe if it's the end of the month,
a domino kind of, but anyway.
Or a contingent deal, but. We're here to help you, and we want to make everything as seamless as possible. So just be honest and upfront with everything you're doing, and we can find a solution. You just need to tell us.
Yeah. So let's summarize it. We're almost at 10 minutes.
Yeah, that. I talked for a while.
These are getting longer and longer, but I think the topics are getting more and more serious and more interesting. When we first started this, we had no idea what we were going to do.
No, I was just like, hey, buy a house.
Yeah, please.
Use
No.
us. It's a little bit more information, I think, now.
So, in summary, be open with cash requirement conversations. Don't be embarrassed. We don't care. We're not here to judge. We're here to help you out and make this happen. And again, it's not just the commissions. We really want you to be happy, because if you're happy, we're happy, and we'll see you again in the future. Whereas if everything's just on the razor's edge, sometimes people aren't so happy.